My name is Dries Ketels. I'm a full-time artist and I've been making art for the last 20 years. And in this video, I will be explaining giving you 3 reasons why you should not become an artist yourself. Let's dive in right away. The first thing is that professional artists have less time to spend on making art than amateur artists. As professional artists, you will spend 80% of your time on the business side of your practice and only 20% of your time on making art. The business side, 80% time, that is sales, marketing, customer service, packaging, etc., etc. Like all of those things that takes a lot of your time. So let's calculate these things and compare a professional artist week with an amateur artist week. If you're a professional artist, you have 168 hours a week. If you sleep 8 hours a day, that's 56 hours in total a week, leaving you with 112 hours. Of those 112 hours, you will spend, let's say, 30 hours on groceries, on preparing food, eating food, watching YouTube, chilling with friends. 30 hours is not a lot. This is probably less than most people use. And so this leaves you with 82 hours that you can work. And of those 82 hours, you will spend 80% on your business, which is roughly 66 hours, and 16 hours on your art. It's only 16 hours. So if you're an amateur artist, you also have 168 hours a week, of which you will sleep 56 hours, 112 left. And of those 112, you work, let's say, a 40-hour work week, so that's 40 hours, leaving you with 72 hours. Let's say you also spend 30 hours, the same amount, logically, on groceries and all of that stuff, leaving you with 42 hours to spend on making art. That's almost 3 times as much as a professional artist has. In other words, if you just want to become better at drawing or painting, you're better off not becoming a professional artist in the first place. The second reason is a financial reason, because you will not be making a lot of money as an artist in the beginning. No matter how good looking you are, no matter how smart you are, no matter how talented, how good at your art practice, how beautiful your art is, you will not be making any money in the beginning. The first couple of years, you will barely be able to survive. The last time I checked the track records of auction houses, which are the only ones that are public, 14 artists ran away with 57% of all the profits. And that's 50% of the art market. 14 artists, 57. I mean, this is insane. And so yes, there are artists who are selling $1 million paintings, but those are just the happy few. And this is true for all art forms. If you look at writing books, for example, in the US, there are more than 1 million books published every single year. And of those, only 500 are making more than 100K. And of those 500, a handful are making the majority of the profit. And so this means that of those 1 million plus published writers, these are established writers, almost 1 million are not making a living off their practice. The third reason doesn't come from me, but comes from today's sponsor liking this video, which is what you should be doing if you want to support your fellow artists. The real third reason is the extreme loneliness that you will experience. If you work a 9-to-5 job, you at least, at the minimum, have your colleagues that you can work with. As an artist, you will likely not have an assistant in the first 10 years, and so you will go to your studio and work completely alone. Almost 7 days 7, because it's not a 30-hour work week, it's more like a 70-hour work week. And so that is forced solitude. I often find myself fighting that solitude by forcing myself to go out and meet friends and do something, because the less I go out, the less I want to go out, and the more I get lost in that solitude. I often find myself going to the supermarket just to surround myself with people somehow. And so that is extreme solitude that you will have to get used to. The best way I can describe this is that during the first wave of quarantine, in terms of loneliness, my life didn't change at all. I was as lonely before the quarantine as during the quarantine and after the quarantines. And as bad as this might sound, I even dare to say that during the quarantine, I felt less lonely, because at least now I knew that other people were also experiencing that same amount of loneliness, which kind of created or turned it into a shared experience, which resolve some of that loneliness that I was feeling. And don't get me wrong, this is not the same as being an introvert. During my university years, I was fairly social and kind of, to some extent, not fully, but to some extent, an extrovert. Living with friends, hanging around friends every single minute of the day, inviting people over, partying, etc., etc., etc. And so it's really this type of job that pushes you into solitude. And it took me personally years to adapt myself to be able to handle this solitude and not become overly depressed or anything. In the beginning of this video, I said that there are 3 reasons, but there's actually a bonus 4th reason, the following one. Becoming a professional artist is inevitably going to turn you, at least from time to time, into an emotional wreck. Let me explain what I mean by that. Here's what's going to happen. First, you will develop an idea for a new project, something. And that idea will sound like pure genius, amazing stuff. You might even think that it will change your career forever. And then you will start executing on that idea and things will start to go wrong. You will start to doubt and complain. You might even think that your art series, your new project, is way too similar to another artist and that you stole from them, even though you clearly didn't. You will start hating your new project, and as a result of that, you will think that you suck, that you're not a real artist and that you don't deserve to be one, and start contemplating about whether or not it would be better to quit making art in the first place. And then, after a couple of days, sometimes even weeks, you will come back into the studio full of energy and full of desire to work on your new project and seeing a bright, beautiful future for that project ahead of you. And this roller coaster going from deep down all the way to excitement and then down again, this happens again and again and again, several times a year. And you might ask yourself, yeah, but Dries, isn't that how everybody kind of experiences life? And to some degree, that is probably the case, but I do believe that artists experience a much more extreme version of this. Here's the thing. As an accountant, you will not experience it this way because there's almost nothing to criticize about your work. Nothing's subjective. Everything you do as an accountant is either true or wrong. But if you're an artist, everything is subjective. And so everything or almost everything can be criticized about your job. And so as a result, you will automatically do that. And on top of that, you will have to share your work online, meaning that thousands and over time tens of thousands of people will give you feedback. And some of that feedback will be negative, confirming the negative thoughts that you had alone in your studio. Accountants just simply don't experience this type of negative external and internal critique towards them. And as a result of all of that, you will be pushing yourself into micro-depressive episodes. And there's very little things that you can do about it. It's almost like an inevitable side effect of becoming a professional artist. Then there's one more thing that we have to talk about, and that is the other side of the coin, the positive side. Because what if you, after hearing all of this, still want to become an artist? How to start an art business? What steps do you then have to take to become a professional artist? These are all questions, and answering them would take, sadly enough, another 15 minutes and would be a completely different video. And so we're not going to do that. I'm very sorry. Predominantly because I already did. It's called How to Start a Lucrative Art Business, and you could be watching it right now. My name is Dries Ketels, and I hope to see you around.